The story begins in a quiet forest where there's a small inn, a laundry, and a cafe, all run by a few people. The inn is managed by a man named Yang Ha, who lives there alone. His wife passed away, and his child now lives and works in Seoul. Then we're introduced to a police officer named Yun Bo Min, who has just moved to a remote area called Hosu as the new police chief. When Bo Min was younger, she actually worked in the same place, and now, after 20 years, she's back again. The story flashes back to 2001. During the summer holidays, many people look for quiet, cool places to relax. Sung Joon lives in the Hosu area with his wife, their child, and his wife's family, who also own a small convenience store nearby. Sung Joon warmly welcomes guests to his inn, providing clean and comfortable rooms, even though it isn't a luxury hotel. Now, the story moves to the present day. Yang Ha sees a car stuck on the road with a woman and a young child inside. Yang Ha steps out to help them. After thanking him, the woman and child leave. But, to his surprise, when Yang Ha returns to the inn, he finds them there. It turns out that his friend, Yong Chai, recommended Yang Ha's inn to the woman, thinking it was the perfect place for them to stay. The woman's name is Yu Song-ae, and the child is named Ha Sion. Yang Ha started preparing everything for the guests, while Yong Chai filled up the pool so Sion could play in the water. Meanwhile, Song-ae went out shopping for a few things she needed. When she returned, Yang Ha helped her carry her bags. Noticing an old record player, Song-ae asked if it still worked. Yang Ha took her to a storage room where his late wife's record collection was kept. Song-ae began looking through the records, picking out one to play. Outside, Sion was playing in the pool with Yong Chai, enjoying the rain. The once quiet and now felt lively and cheerful. After playing, Sion dried off with a towel and went to look for Song-ae. The story flashes back to 20 years ago. During a heavy rainstorm, a mysterious man in a white car suddenly stopped near Sung Joon's inn. Sung Joon noticed him and invited him to stay, offering him the room with the best view. The next morning, Sung Joon's wife, Eun Kyung, arrived to take over the shift and clean up around the inn. Soon after, Sung Joon went to Jong Doo's store for breakfast. Meanwhile, the phone rang at the police station. At that time, Bo Min was a new officer in the area. A bit nervous, Bo Min answered the call and learned about her first case in the town. Soon after, police cars and an ambulance rushed to Sung Joon's inn. The media heard about the incident and tried to get into the inn. Sung Joon and Jong Doo were confused by all the police and reporters showing up. A man managed to slip inside, while Eun Kyung looked shocked and faint. There, a detective questioned Sung Joon, asking if the man in a photo had been at the inn and what time he had left. It turned out that this man was Ji Hyung Cheol, a dangerous serial killer. The previous night, Hyung Cheol had brought his victim to Sung Joon's inn and committed the crime in one of the rooms. Sung Joon recalled feeling regret, thinking back to how he had knocked on the man's car window and offered him a room. When Hyung Cheol took his victim into the room, Sung Joon had been asleep in the lobby, so he hadn't seen it happen. He entered the crime scene in shock, realizing that the room with the best view had become the place where the killer took his victim's life. In the 2020s, Yang Ha and Yong Chai are talking about Song-ae and Sion. Yong Chai mentions that the young boy, Sion, told him his dad is away for work. They also talk about their own children who live far away because of their jobs. One rainy evening, Song-ae is busy cooking spaghetti with tomato sauce for dinner. Sion calls her aunt, which shows that Song-ae isn't his mom. Sion asks when his dad will come for him, and Song-ae assures him that his dad will come once he finishes his meal. Later that night, Song-ae, now wearing different clothes and covered in blood, plays music and begins cleaning up. She takes some cleaning supplies and heads to the bathroom. The next morning, she quietly leaves the inn. Every morning, Yang Ha goes out to buy supplies. On his way back, he spots Song-ae smoking by the roadside. When he returns to the inn, he checks her room and finds everything cleaned up, with the room key and cash left behind by Song-ae. While putting away his record, Yang Ha is startled to see blood on his hand. This makes him suspicious, especially because the entire room, even the bathroom, smells of bleach. The blood on the record raises many questions, and Yang Ha tries to hide his suspicions from Yong Chai. Meanwhile, Bo Min is getting ready for her job in uniform. Her colleagues are talking about Bo Min's reputation as the tracker. She is known for her strong instincts, solving many murder cases. Bo Min chose to return to this area because she feels there's a connection to her very first case here. Because of his suspicions, Yang-ha decides to check the dashcam footage from Yong-chae's car, which was parked right behind Song-ae's car. At first, the video seemed normal, but when he watches the footage from that morning, Yang-ha is shocked and filled with doubt. He rewinds the video to see where Si-yeon went and why Song-ae left alone with a large suitcase that had bloodstains. Yang-ha starts to wonder if the blood belongs to Si-yeon and if Song-ae might have harmed him. He thinks about calling the police but hesitates, wondering if it's all just his imagination. Instead, Yang-ha decides to clean up the entire inn and replace everything. He takes the laundry to be washed, and his friend there mentions that 2 towels are missing. When Yang-ha returns to the inn to look, he only finds 1 towel left. Around that time, Bo Min is patrolling the area and stops by the inn. She notices that Yang-ha seems to have something he wants to say, but isn't sure, so she leaves. Later, Yang-ha decides to burn the towel and bloody tissues he found, then puts away his records. In the flashback to 2001, Sung Joon's inn is filled with media and police because Hyung Cheol, a serial killer, is reenacting his crime. Since then, the inn has had fewer visitors because people are scared to stay there. In the present, Yang-ha's inn still seems safe because he hasn't reported anything to the police. But he can't feel at ease, as thoughts of the young boy and Song-ae keep bothering him. These worries weigh heavily on his heart, making it hard to forget. Time passed, and Sung Joon and Eun Kyung had to work hard to support their family since their inn was struggling with no guests. This caused tension between them, as they also had a child to support, including school expenses. Sung Joon felt even more guilty because he was the one who invited Hyung Cheol to stay, which led to their inn's downfall. At the police station, young Bo Min was watching news about Hyung Cheol's arrest. She kept the article in a notebook and took pictures of the crime scene where Hyung Cheol committed his crime. Life became very hard for Sung Joon and Eun Kyung after that. They closed the inn, but rumors about the killers kept spreading. Their son, Koo Gi-ho, was also affected, as his friends started bullying him because of the incident. A year later, summer arrived. Yang-ha was living his life as usual. His daughter called to tell him that she, her husband, and her in-laws would be visiting the inn, so Yang-ha started planning a nice dinner. But suddenly, an unexpected visitor arrived, and it's the woman from before had returned, and seeing her brought back memories from his past. The scene flashes back to a time when Yang-ha decided to leave his job and live in the quiet forest with his wife. His wife had requested this in the final months of her life, as she was suffering from an illness with little time left. Deeply in love with her, Yang-ha bought the inn and moved there with her, spending her last days together in peace and quiet before she passed away. There, Yang-ha asked Song-ae why she returned. Song-ae said she wanted to rent a room, but Yang-ha replied that there were no rooms available today. Just then, his daughter, Wee-shan, arrived with her husband, Ji-soo, and his in-laws. Seeing that guests were there, Wee-shan suggested that Song-ae could stay since she and Ji-soo decided to go back to Seoul after dinner due to an urgent matter. Song-ae happily accepted the offer, but Yang-ha wasn't pleased. As evening came, Wee-shan gave Song-ae the key to the inn. Normally, Yang-ha would have his friend Yong-chae around to help him, but Yong-chae was in the hospital due to an injury. During dinner, Song-ae joined them, bringing a bottle of wine as a thank you gift. Yang-ha seemed distant and uninterested. After dinner, Wee-shan said goodbye to her father, leaving only Yang-ha and Song-ae at the inn. The next morning, while filling the pool with water, Yang-ha reminded Song-ae that a year ago, she stayed there with a young child. However, Song-ae denied it. The scene shifts to Eun Kyung, who was scolded by Min So, the owner of a small restaurant, for drinking on the job and making a mistake on a customer's bill. Min So pointed out that she often saw Eun Kyung drinking soju while working, but allowed her to keep the job because she felt indebted to Eun Kyung's husband. Sung Joon Min So then commented that Eun Kyung was full of drama. This made Eun Kyung angry, and she argued back, saying she would quit immediately. She felt humiliated, believing that Min So only pretended to care about her because she was paying her. In another place, Sung Joon receives a call from a real estate agent. The agent says there's someone interested in buying his inn. This news brings some hope to Eun Kyung, who has struggled for so long. However, Sung Joon tells her not to get her hopes up too high, just in case the sale doesn't happen, so she won't be too disappointed. When Sung Joon arrives home, Eun Kyung decides to make dinner for her small family, and it's a rare thing she hasn't done in a while. After dinner, Gi-ho sneaks into the kitchen, grabbing some of his parents' soju. He also finds his mom's sleeping pills and takes them too. Meanwhile, Sung Joon meets with his friend Jong-do, sharing that someone might finally buy the inn. Sung Joon realizes that his life has been filled with bad luck, as many things he tried ended in disappointment. Now he really hopes this sale goes through, so he can finally be free of the inn that he feels is cursed. At the same time, Gi-ho heads over to the inn, where he finds some classmates gathered there. Gi-ho gives them his mom's sleeping pills and soju to drink. Back home, Eun Kyung wakes up from a nightmare and looks for her sleeping pills, only to find they're gone. Unable to sleep, she decides to go to the inn. There, she suddenly sees a group of teenagers rushing out of the inn, with Gi-ho following behind, carrying a friend who seems unconscious. They end up having to deal with the police because one of Gi-ho's friends had a seizure after mixing sleeping pills with soju. The other friends point out that Gi-ho was the one who led the group into doing this. Soon after, Gi-ho also faints. At that time, his mother sees something written on his palm. It's a reminder of their meeting. There, she realizes that he's been bullied all this time. The next morning, when Sung Joon learns about what happened, he gets angry and yells at Gi-ho. But Eun Kyung explains that Gi-ho is actually a victim of bullying. His friends have been forcing him to bring alcohol and cigarettes for them. This makes Sung Joon even angrier. So, at the next parent-teacher meeting, when one parent starts blaming Gi-ho for the incident, Sung Joon loses his temper, leading to a confrontation. Meanwhile, Gi-ho goes to the local library to look up information about Hyung Cheol, then leaves. Later, Bo-min sees the same newspaper he was reading. The next day, a reporter arrives to gather information about the inn where Hyung Cheol's crime happened, as it's almost been a year since the incident. Officer Bo-min explains that the media have spread photos and the inn's address in their reports just to make money, causing serious harm to the inn's owner. Reporters only care about getting a big story, she says. The reporter then interviews Sung Joon about how Hyung Cheol's actions impacted him. Even though a year has passed, Sung Joon is still suffering cause his business has gone bankrupt. Although Hyung Cheol was sentenced to death, he won't be executed anytime soon, so he'll just keep living in prison. Ironically, Hyung Cheol had even offered to help Sung Joon restore the inn's reputation. But before anything could happen, Bo-min gets a call from Jong-do and quickly leaves to meet him. The scene then shifts to Young-ha, who is out shopping. Meanwhile, Song-ae is seen preparing a meal with her favorite tomato sauce. When Young-ha arrives, Song-ae greets him calmly, acting as if his visit wasn't a surprise. She serves him a plate of food, and he tries to stay calm in front of her. But after taking a bite of spaghetti, Young-ha suddenly faints. As he loses consciousness, he thinks of Seon, feeling a deep sense of guilt. Later, Young-ha goes to the police station, but he suddenly has a nosebleed. While searching his pocket for a handkerchief, he finds a family photo and looks at his daughter's picture. In the early 2000s, after getting a call from Jong-do, Officer Bo-min rushes to the inn to meet him. When she arrives, she's shocked to find that Eun Kyung has taken her own life by overdosing on pills. Bo-min tries to save her, but it's too late. Eun Kyung passes away in the same room where Hyung Cheol had killed a woman. Winter arrives. Sung Joon asks Bo-min for help in meeting Hyung Cheol in prison, pretending to be a reporter, even though he's unsure what he wants to say. When he finally sees Hyung Cheol, he just wants to look at the face of the person who ruined his life. The scene then shows a memory of Eun Kyung when she first saw their inn. She and Sung Joon were overjoyed when they bought it. Sung Joon excitedly showed his wife and son the most beautiful room in their new inn. Before ending her life, Eun Kyung had written a letter to Sung Joon in it. She apologizes for her decision. She admits she was haunted by the image of the woman who died in that room. Eun Kyung expresses her guilt and deep love for both Sung Joon and Gi-ho. After receiving a threat from Song-ae, Young-ha decides to go to Seoul to check on his daughter. When he arrives, he sees Song-ae near his daughter's pharmacy. His son-in-law, Ji-soo, notices him and invites him into the clinic. They plan to have lunch together, but Young-ha declines, saying he needs to visit Young-chae in the hospital. Wee-shan gives her father some vitamins for him and Young-chae. While there, Young-ha spots Song-ae nearby and chases her, nearly getting hit by a car. Meanwhile, back in the 2000s, the story continues with the detective noticing young officer Bo-min's interest in criminal cases. The detective knows Bo-min took photos at the crime scene and collected news articles about Hyung-cheol. He also learns that Bo-min once caught a serial bike thief by questioning random people and finding a suspect. Seeing her strong instincts, the detective invites Bo-min to join the criminal unit, where she earns the nickname the Tracker. In the present, Young-ha visits Young-chae at the hospital and gives him the vitamins from Wee-shan. During their meal, Young-ha considers telling Young-chae about the disappearance of Si-yeon and Song-ae, but he realizes it's just his imagination and decides not to share anything, fearing it might put Young-chae in danger. When Young-ha returns to the inn, he finds that some of the walls have been painted in bright colors by Song-ae. He also notices that she bought some plants. Young-ha realizes he doesn't know much about Song-ae, not even her real name, so he searches her room to find any clues about her identity. He then tries to open her laptop, but it's locked with a password. Desperate, he takes it to a repair shop to unlock it, but the technician says it would need a full reset, which would erase everything. So, Young-ha decides not to go through with it. On his way home, Young-ha sees two large trucks passing by his inn. It turns out that Song-ae is redecorating the inn, bringing in new furniture and her belongings. Inside, there are many paintings, revealing that Song-ae is an artist. After returning from a jog, Young-ha notices more items ordered by Song-ae scattered around the inn, as if she owns the place. Annoyed, he goes to find Song-ae, who's swimming, and briefly dunks her underwater out of frustration. Following this, Song-ae goes about her day as usual, stopping by the laundry and cafe where Young-ha often goes. She asks the cafe owner for permission to take some photos there. They chat a bit, and the cafe owner mentions that they know Young-ha well, but finds it odd that he's never mentioned Song-ae. Back at the inn, Song-ae asks Young-ha to return her laptop. She tells him that if he has questions, he should just ask her directly. Soon after, they sit down to eat together, having tomato soup that Song-ae made. In a calm tone, Young-ha asks what Song-ae's real intentions are and what happened to Si-yeon. He mentions that he saw dashboard footage showing the child wasn't there when Song-ae left and recalls the bleach smell in the bathroom. Song-ae admits that the child left with her, but then disappeared. The only evidence is the video, with no trace of the child's body. Young-ha realizes he should have reported his suspicions to the police from the start, but instead, he erased the traces and stayed silent for a year. There, Song-ae admits she got rid of the child, but warns Young-ha that he could also be in trouble for hiding it for a whole year. She then reveals her intention to buy Young-ha's inn, saying that this place means a lot to her and inspires her creativity. Meanwhile, in Seoul, Ji-soo suggests to his father-in-law, Young-ha, that he should come live with them, as Ji-soo feels bad about him living alone in the forest. Wee-shan, who is currently pregnant, agrees but knows her father won't agree right away. At the inn, Young-ha listens to a recording of his conversation with Song-ae, realizing it's enough proof of her confession. He thinks she's ready to face the consequences. Later, Song-ae sneaks into Young-ha's room, finds his voice recorder, and fears he might report her to the police. When Young-ha arrives at the police station, he's hesitant. Just as he's about to leave, Song-ae purposely crashes her car into his. Young-ha is taken to the hospital, where he spots Song-ae looking for him, appearing threatening. He braces himself to defend if she enters, but it's only a nurse who comes in. Soon, he leaves the hospital, but Song-ae remains calm, telling him she's already gotten rid of his laptop and the recordings to keep things peaceful between them. Young-ha tells her to leave and promises he won't tell anyone, but Song-ae refuses, insisting she truly wants the inn. Now, Young-ha is left thinking of a way to make this dangerous woman leave. Moments later, Song-ae continues painting and preparing for an art exhibition. However, she soon feels lonely staying there by herself. Expecting Young-ha to arrive, she is surprised when a new guest shows up instead. The guest asks for the room key, but Song-ae refuses to give it. Frustrated, the guest contacts the local police. Meanwhile, Song-ae tries calling Young-ha, but he ignores her calls. The police ask Song-ae to hand over the key, and her belongings are moved to Young-ha's place. Still, Young-ha doesn't answer her calls on purpose. 20 years pass, and Gi-ho is now an adult. He often visits the hospital to see his aunt, Jong-doo's mother, who is staying there. Next to her is an elderly woman who always waits for her child to visit. Meanwhile, Young-ha tells Yong-chai that he has a troublesome guest at his inn. Yong-chai suggests reporting it to the police, but Young-ha decides against it. Instead, he hopes the guest will leave once the rental period ends, allowing him to welcome new guests. A new group of young people arrives at the inn. That night, they hold a karaoke session, disturbing Song-ae, who's trying to focus on her painting for the exhibition. One of them approaches her, calling her a jumma, and rudely asks for a new toothbrush. Annoyed, Song-ae demands that they leave. The next morning, Song-ae is woken up by stones thrown by the young guests. This time, she's frustrated with Young-ha, who asks her to help clean up the inn as he hasn't returned yet. Ignoring her threats, Young-ha leaves Song-ae to deal with the chaos on her own. The story shifts to Bo-min, who is collecting dirty laundry and sees her daughter sleeping. Bo-min heads to the laundromat, where she hears from a colleague that a reporter has done the unthinkable after writing a biography on Hyung Cheol. CCTV footage showed a mysterious man meeting with the reporter, but the family refused an autopsy and went straight to cremation, so the investigation was stopped. Meanwhile, Young-ha is camping in the forest to avoid Song-ae. One of his guests calls him, saying Song-ae refuses to give them the key. Young-ha arrives to hand them the keys, only to find that Shan-tae and his friends are staying there on a holiday break. Shan-tae even thinks Young-ha is leaving a woman alone in the inn to put her in danger. That night, Song-ae enjoys spending time with Shan-tae and his friends. As they say goodbye, Song-ae and Shan-tae seem close, and Shan-tae promises to return the next day to help her move her things. The next day, after going shopping, Song-ae and Shan-tae see Young-ha has returned, so they decide to eat together. Shan-tae seems uncomfortable with Young-ha, thinking he has bad intentions towards Song-ae, but Young-ha ignores him. Later, Song-ae goes to Young-ha's house and tries to convince him to sell the inn by splitting the property between them. But Young-ha refuses to live so close to her. Song-ae, angered, tells him she'll make him feel unwelcome after he heard about what happened to Sion. She insists that she won't give up on owning the place. In response, Young-ha angrily grabs her by the neck. Worried, Shan-tae runs to find Song-ae and confront Young-ha, but Song-ae stops him. To make Young-ha uncomfortable, Song-ae purposely kisses Shan-tae in Young-ha's house, causing Young-ha to leave. However, Young-ha soon realizes it's his own property, so he calls the police. Returning to the house, he orders Song-ae and Shan-tae to leave, which leads to a small argument between him and Shan-tae. Soon, the police arrive, and Officer Bo-min asks what happened. Young-ha explains that the two entered his private space, which made him upset. Bo-min also asks if Young-ha has anything else to report, recalling that he had visited the police station before his accident. Young-ha responds that everything is in the past, and there's no evidence left. While Bo-min steps outside to take a call, she returns to see Young-ha standing near her desk, as if studying something. He then says goodbye and asks the police to make sure Shan-tae doesn't come back, offering to refund him. At the clinic, Shan-tae's senior, Choi, approaches him. Choi warns him not to cause trouble, as Choi is about to get a promotion, but Shan-tae can't stop thinking about Song-ae. When Choi offers him a ride on his patrol, Shan-tae declines. Later, Shan-tae sneaks back to the inn to find Song-ae, but she isn't there. Looking around, he finds a drawer with a bag inside containing a laptop and a voice recording that Song-ae hadn't thrown away. Realizing the truth about Song-ae, Shan-tae quickly runs outside. Suddenly, Song-ae appears in her car, blocking him. Shan-tae tries to call his senior, but Song-ae begins chasing him with her car. Eventually, the phone rings, and it's Song-ae calling Young-ha. She appears frustrated, her face splattered with mud, but her expression changes when Young-ha finally says he'll sell the inn to her. The story flashes back to the 2000s. On that fateful night, young Gi-ho sneaks into one of the hotel rooms. As he tries to leave, he crosses paths with Hyung Chil, who is with his victim. Hyung Chil asks Gi-ho to pretend he didn't see anything, and Gi-ho has kept Hyung Chil's hat as a memory ever since. Back in the present day, grown-up Gi-ho returns to his childhood village. He stops by Jong-doo's convenience store to pick up some packages he ordered. Gi-ho takes the packages to one of his rooms, where he assembles a rifle. He tests his aim by pointing toward a target near his aunt's hospital room, with Jong-doo helping him find the exact spot. Gi-ho quickly moves, racing against time, hiding briefly behind a car, then running toward his aunt's room. It turns out Gi-ho has been practicing for something he has long planned. Returning to his hideout near the inn, Gi-ho senses someone has been there. He searches outside but finds no one. Hearing a noise from inside, he rushes in and strikes the intruder, only to realize it's Yang-ha. In another flashback, we learn that Yang-ha learned about Gi-ho's inn from a news report. While at the police station, Yang-ha saw a photo of Gi-ho's inn and secretly took a picture from Officer Bo-min's desk. He starts wondering if his inn will meet the same fate. Uncertain about what to do, Yang-ha heads to Gi-ho's inn, debating whether he should reveal everything he knows or continue keeping it all to himself. At the inn, Officer Bo-min wants to meet Yang-ha, but only sees Song-ae, who leaves shortly after. Following her instincts, Officer Bo-min decides to go inside and check around. Meanwhile, Yang-ha heads to a real estate agency to gather information about the inn. There, he learns that the original owner, Sung-joon, is now living in a nursing home. Yang-ha quickly makes his way there to see him. At the nursing home, Yang-ha sees an old photo and meets an elderly man who acts as if he's still running the inn, preparing to clean a room. It turns out that Sung-joon has memory loss and is stuck in his memories of managing the inn. He begins recounting past events, mentioning that his 13-year-old son was staying with his aunt because the inn was going through some problems. Sung-joon warns Yang-ha not to trust people who pretend to care, as they might not have good intentions. As Yang-ha is about to leave, Sung-joon calls him back and says he has someone who plans to deal with Hyung Chil, even if he's in prison. He shouts loudly that his son will seek justice against Hyung Chil. Afterward, Yang-ha looks at the visitor log and finds Sung-joon's son's name and address. He follows Gi-ho from the moment he picks up his packages, trailing him to the hospital and then to his hideout. Finally, Yang-ha is left tied up with tape as Gi-ho prepares to carry out his long-planned mission, leaving Yang-ha behind. Meanwhile, Yang-ha struggles to break free from the tape binding him. At the same time, Gi-ho reaches the location and hears from Jong-doo that their target has arrived at the hospital. Jong-doo's mother, however, refuses to leave her room, insisting on staying put. The police allow her to stay, asking Jong-doo to step out. Jong-doo refuses, knowing Hyung Chil is very dangerous. He uses this chance to adjust a chair to line up with Gi-ho's aim. Soon, Hyung Chil enters the room to visit Jong-doo's mother. As he talks to her, he notices Jong-doo acting suspiciously, and his mother keeps pointing toward the window. Just as Hyung Chil turns to look, Gi-ho's shot misses. Shortly after, the police rush in, scanning the area to find the shooter. Hyung Chil seizes this moment to escape, injuring one of the officers in his brutal attempt to get away. Jong-doo is terrified but knows he must help Gi-ho by stalling Hyung Chil for 3 minutes, just like they practiced. While trying to stop him, Jong-doo suddenly hears the beeping of Hyung Chil's mother's breathing device. Feeling a sense of duty, he tries to fix it. Suddenly, Jong-doo's own mother steps out of the room, and Hyung Chil prepares to strike her, but Gi-ho arrives just in time. Gi-ho completes his mission, taking down Hyung Chil to bring justice to the man who hurt his family. As usual, the police arrive a little too late. When Gi-ho returns home, Yang-ha is there, pointing a gun at him. Gi-ho claims it's just a toy gun, thinking Yang-ha is a police officer, and orders him to leave. But Yang-ha finds it odd that Gi-ho would act this way if he believed Yang-ha was a cop. Inside, Yang-ha realizes Gi-ho had been about to harm himself, but he arrived just in time. Yang-ha tells Gi-ho he'll leave once Gi-ho shares his story. Gi-ho explains that his life has been hard since his mother passed away and his father became trapped in memories of the past. Yang-ha calls the nursing home, hoping that hearing his father's voice might help Gi-ho. His father picks up, still talking about past mistakes, and it brings Gi-ho some comfort. Gi-ho then shares that he once visited Hyung Cheol in prison and learned a writer planned to publish Hyung Cheol's story. Hyung Cheol gave him the writer's address, and when Gi-ho arrived, he found the writer had done the unthinkable. Instead of calling the police, Gi-ho took the draft of the book and left. Afterward, he locked himself away, reading the draft, realizing time had passed quickly. While Hyung Cheol was ready to leave his dark past, Gi-ho felt trapped in his pain. Yong-ha burns the draft, urging Gi-ho to clean up and pretend they'd been drinking together, creating an alibi for Gi-ho's safety. When Yong-ha checks his messages, he reads that Yong-chai is at the inn and has met with Song-ae. He tries calling, but there's no response. When he contacts his daughter, it's Song-ae who answers, giving him a bad feeling. Determined to end this, Yong-ha decides to protect what's his once and for all, taking Gi-ho's rifle as he heads out. The story goes back to the day after Song-ae hit Shantae with her car and met Officer Bowman the following morning. Song-ae returns to Seoul to prepare for her art exhibition, but she's furious when she sees that her paintings aren't displayed. She demands her assistant to replace the artwork with her own. As she's leaving, a man suddenly enters her car, and it's Ha Jae-sik, her husband, who has just been released from prison. At that time, Song-ae gives him an invitation to her art show and says her paintings were inspired by his late son, Seon. Seon was Jae-sik's son from a previous relationship before he married Song-ae. Trying to get away from Jae-sik, Song-ae reveals that she falsely accused him of abuse to put him in prison. The reason she harmed Seon was because seeing him every day stressed her out, and she deeply disliked him. She felt Jae-sik only married her to replace Seon's mother, who left right after giving birth. Song-ae tries to escape, and Jae-sik chases her, leading to a struggle where Song-ae faints. When Song-ae regains consciousness, she heads to her exhibition, which has just started. She's shocked to see her paintings thrown out. Her assistant and her father, Mr. Yu, are talking nearby. Suddenly, a car bursts into the scene, causing chaos. Song-ae steps out and tells her father that Jae-sik is free and asks him to send Jae-sik out of the country. But Mr. Yu suggests that it's Song-ae who should leave the country to stop causing trouble. Meanwhile, Kyung-num, the cafe owner, is surprised to see clothes hanging around his place. Checking the CCTV, he realizes the culprit was Song-ae. Elsewhere, Yong-chai is finally discharged from the hospital and heads straight to the inn, but doesn't find Yong-ha there. Confused, he checks the house and notices the entire interior has been changed, with Song-ae inside. After being let in, Yong-chai calls Wee-shan to let her know her father isn't there and may have just stepped out. Wee-shan tries calling her father, but gets no answer. Then, Yong-chai recalls Yong-ha's story about a troublesome guest at the inn and suspects it's Song-ae. Annoyed, he comments on the interior changes Song-ae made, and she responds, saying she's buying the inn. Yong-chai doesn't believe that Yong-ha would sell it, so he tells Song-ae to leave and warns her that he'll take legal action if she causes trouble, calling her a liar. Angered, Song-ae grabs a screwdriver and stabs him, then hits him with a stick in a fit of rage. Afterward, Song-ae goes shopping at a supermarket, grabbing items without much thought. Officer Bo-min happens to be there as well and notices Song-ae buying bottles of bleach, which raises her suspicions. Meanwhile, Wee-shan keeps trying to reach her father without success. Worried, she decides to head to the inn to look for him. Inside, a severely injured Yong-chai is struggling to get help. Soon after, Wee-shan searches around the inn for her father, but finds no sign of him. Just as she's about to leave, she pauses, sensing something, and checks near the side of the inn, almost spotting Yong-chai. She goes back inside and tries to call her father again, but there's still no answer. Then, Song-ae taunts her, jokingly asking if her father might already be dead, which infuriates Wee-shan. Song-ae then claims that both she and Wee-shan's father are criminals, as they got rid of a child in the inn. She describes how she poisoned and strangled Seon, while Wee-shan's father supposedly cleaned up the scene. Wee-shan doesn't believe her, thinking Song-ae must be mentally unstable. When she tries to fight back, Wee-shan suddenly feels weak, realizing that Song-ae had slipped her a sleeping pill. At that moment, Wee-shan tries to run, but Song-A chases her. Wei-shan realizes that Yong-chai is tied up and tries to rescue him. However, Song-A catches up with a shovel, and they struggle against each other. Suddenly, because Wei-shan is pregnant, she feels pain in her stomach. Song-A takes this chance to grab a rope and starts strangling Wei-shan until she weakens. Shortly after, Song-A leaves with a large suitcase. At that moment, Yang-ha calls his daughter, but it's Song-A who answers. Sensing his daughter is in danger, Yang-ha rushes to the inn with Gi-ho's rifle. When he arrives, he loads the rifle and starts searching for Wei-shan, but he can't find her. Then he spots Song-A sitting calmly. He gives her a choice: tell him where Wei-shan is or face the consequences. Song-A counters by saying if he wants to see his daughter alive, he should lower the gun. She gives him 30 minutes, urging him to save Yong-chai first, then they can talk and search for Wei-shan. Yang-ha quickly searches and finds Yong-chai badly injured. He rushes him to the hospital, where Kyung-num, the cafe owner, tries to ask what happened, but Yang-ha doesn't have time to explain and leaves. Meanwhile, Song-A is preparing to leave the inn, but Yang-ha arrives just in time. Now, it's Song-A's turn to feel scared, realizing she should never have messed with the most important person in his life. Yang-ha uses an axe to break through the door, determined to finish this. He realizes that hiding the truth and avoiding action has only allowed terrible things to build up, so he's ready to end it himself. Cornered, Song-A shows him a ticket, saying her father was sending her overseas. She offers Yang-ha a deal. If he lets her go, he can save his daughter and friend and live his life in peace, as she'll never come back. But if he makes the wrong choice, the inn will become his nightmare as he witnesses his daughter's fate within its walls. As time ticks by, a phone rings, and it's a call from Officer Bo-min. Things calm down a bit, and Song-A asks Yang-ha for help to bury something in the garden. Yang-ha suspects Song-A is up to something again, but agrees, urging her to lead him to his daughter, Wei-shan, first. They head out together to search. Shortly after, they arrive at the edge of a lake, where they spot a red suitcase. Shocked, Yang-ha realizes Wei-shan is inside. He demands that Song-A open it, but just then, Officer Bo-min and her team arrive to arrest Song-A. It turns out that Kyung-num, the cafe owner, had reported Song-A after seeing suspicious footage on CCTV and witnessing the attack on Yong-chai and Yang-ha. Before going to the inn, Officer Bo-min meets with Yang-ha, suspecting something serious is going on. She asks Yang-ha to explain the truth, and he tells her that his daughter has been kidnapped by Song-A. Officer Bo-min agrees to help and advises Yang-ha to stall for as long as possible. She assures him they'll help Gi-ho find Wei-shan and explains her plan. She'll keep calling Yang-ha as a signal. The first call means they're searching. The second call will confirm that Wei-shan is found and safe. They plan to catch Song-A by luring her to the scene willingly, knowing it's easier to arrest her this way. So, they set a trap for Song-A, getting her to show up where they need her. Yang-ha quickly rushes to the hospital to see Wei-shan. There, he's shocked to learn that Wei-shan is pregnant. Seeing his daughter's condition, he can't help but feel a deep sense of guilt. Moments later, Officer Bo-min arrives at the hospital to check on Wei-shan's condition and senses Yang-ha's guilt over what happened. As she's about to leave, Yang-ha remembers something important that he tells Officer Bo-min that Song-A had asked him to help bury something, suggesting there might be another victim yet to be found. Officer Bo-min heads back to the police station to question Song-A, carefully watching her. But Song-A remains silent and indifferent. Suddenly, Bo-min changes her approach, asking Song-A who she hurt and where she hid them. She acts as if this is just a game, telling Song-A to keep quiet if she wants the search to be more exciting. She casually mentions a cornfield, and Song-A pauses, slightly unsettled. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Yang-ha is informed that Wei-shan's condition is improving and that the baby is safe. Now he just needs to wait for Wei-shan to regain consciousness. Back at the police station, Kyung-num, the cafe owner, sees that Song-A has been released thanks to her father and lawyer. She plans to go back to the inn to collect her passport, but the lawyer insists she head straight back to Seoul, saying this is her last chance as per her father's orders. However, Song-A ignores him and leaves. At that time, Officer Bo Min follows her instincts to search for Song A's possible victims in the cornfield. Suddenly, Young Ha calls her, furious that Song A was released. Bowman assures him that she'll catch Song A again, but Young Ha insists on punishing Song A himself for what she did to his daughter. With no response to that, Bowman continues searching the cornfield with her team. Elsewhere, Song A stops by Kyung Num's cafe, furious because he reported her to the police. Showing no remorse, she sets fire to both the cafe and the laundry next to it. Meanwhile, Kyung Num is helping in the cornfield search. Soon, Choi, one of the team members, spots something suspicious about the body of Shantae, whom they thought was simply on vacation. Just as they discover Shantae's body, they receive news that the cafe and laundry are on fire. Kyung Num and Bo Min rush to the scene. On the other hand, Sung-ah hurriedly grabs her passport from the inn, saying goodbye to the place. But then, Jae-sik arrives, picking up the rifle left by Young-ha. In another location, Song-a's father comes across photos showing Song-a harming Seon. Shocked and realizing how out of control she is, he decides to let Jae-sik deal with her on his own. Soon after, Song-a runs to her father, pleading for help because Jae-sik is trying to kill her. But her father reveals that this is exactly what he ordered. When Young-ha arrives, Song-a accuses him of helping cover up what happened to Seon, urging Jae-sik to shoot Young-ha first. Young-ha apologizes for not reporting to the police immediately and for staying silent over the past year, even cleaning up the scene. Just then, Officer Bowman arrives outside and hears gunshots. Inside, Young-ha and Song-a are both injured after being shot by Jae-sik. As Jae-sik aims at Song-a again, Bo-min intervenes, stopping him but also intending to arrest Song-a. However, Young-ha steps in, causing the gun to fall, creating chaos. Song-a grabs the gun and shoots Bo-min, but when she tries to fire again, the gun jams and she runs outside. With an injured leg, Jae-sik chases after her, followed by Young-ha. Song-a runs to the pool, where her life ultimately ends at the hands of her husband. Those who were hurt by Song-a's actions begin to heal, and both Song-a and Shantae are laid to rest. As time passes and seasons change, people hope for peace after the troubling events. One day, Officer Bo-min visits Gi-ho, saying she was just in the area. Bo-min mentions she knew both Gi-ho's father and Jong-do well and used to have a similar photo of them that she lost. Gi-ho gives her the photo that Young-ha had left behind. Bo-min then tells Gi-ho that the gun used to shoot Song-a was the same type as the one used on Hyung-cheol. She adds that sometimes people choose not to dig too deep into certain truths, leaving the mystery of the gun's origin unsolved. Now, Young-ha is finally living peacefully again. He gathers with friends at the cafe, which is now fully restored and bustling with more visitors. Later, Young-ha returns home to be with his daughter, grandchildren, and son-in-law, who now live with him at the inn, which is no longer in operation. In another scene, Gi-ho calls and tells him he'd like to visit and chat sometime. The series ends here. Some people might wonder about the meaning of the title The Frog. In this story, the frog is based on an old Korean saying, "A frog can be killed by a stone thrown by accident." This saying means that someone can hurt others without meaning to. In this story, the frog represents Sung-jun and Young-ha, who both had ends that accidentally became places where bad things happened. The moral lesson from this series is never offer strangers a room with the best view, cause you never know who's bringing drama and bleach into your life. And remember, some guests are better left uninvited.